Thursday night, 7 o'clock. Garnet and Old, no inside info, no contacts, no problem. I'm Ryan. That's Vince. How are you today, my friend?
I'm doing great. I've been so excited. You know, Ryan, I've been so excited about everything that's going on, not the least of which is something that everybody just saw for the first time. I mean, we were getting little hints about it this week.
Yeah.
But that's the first time we're rolling some of that stuff out. We're going to talk more about that tonight. But I've been really excited, as you know.
No, absolutely. For those of you who are watching, returning members or your first time watching the Garnet and Old show, brand new logo, brand new graphics, brand new backgrounds. So we went all in, and I kind of brought this up about a month ago that we were going to do this, and I think I fired a little early as far as when it would be ready, but it is ready now, and we have fully rolled it out. Now, Vince, before we get started, if you guys would like, please subscribe to the channel and join the channel. Become a member of the Garnet and Old show by hitting the join button on YouTube, just like our friend Seminoles here. Hello, all. Hey, how's it going? And then Chris Johnson, also a member.
You guys are in early.
I'm gonna say he said, "Let's go." I'm
No, that's what he meant. We do not deal with typos. Are okay, and we will be okay with that. As long as the typo is not FU, we may have to block you for that.
Absolutely. Now, Vince, real quick, before we get into it, we always like to do about 5 minutes before we get into our main show topics. I hear you have some updates from a technology standpoint. Let's skip the lost segment. Vince, what have you procured for yourself in preparation for EA Sports College Football?
Yeah, so we're going to skip the lost segment because I've been doing other stuff. And one of the things that I've been doing is really, really diving super deep into my brand spanking new PS5. How about that? How about that? Yeah, and let me tell you, it's a whole nother world, a whole new world, as Jasmine would say to Aladdin, or Aladdin to Jasmine.
I don't know animation.
Like I mentioned in the last show, my most recent console was an Xbox 360. You can make fun of me if you'd like, but I'm old. Yeah. Like I'm lucky I'm not still playing the ColecoVision that I have, right? So get in the PS5. First of all, I was real excited to go into the Best Buy, right? Not a sponsor. Really excited to go in there and say, it's like Wayne's World, where he finally goes to buy the guitar. Do you take cash, right? Walk in there, and I got an extra controller, and I got a couple games that were, reasonably priced that you helped me out with. And as we're up there at the counter, everybody kind of go along with me here. I'm up at the counter. They pull it from back behind. You can't have those consoles out because apparently people just steal them.
Yeah.
They pull it out. They get I've got the controller that comes with it, and I got a black controller also, so I know which one's which. And then there's this little kid behind me with his dad in the line. And he's like, "Dad, can we get a PS5 today?" And the dad says, "No, you've been saving up your money for the computer. Remember the computer you're saving up your money for?" And the kid's like, "Oh, yeah." And as we turned around, my daughter and I looked at him and I said, "I've been waiting at least 10 years to buy a new console. So, you've got plenty of time. And by the time you're ready to get a new one, maybe it'll be PS9. Who knows what that's going to be. But the gaming on it, amazing. My gamer tag is VC Nole. I'm easy to find, people.
Yeah.
I'm easy to find. Come find me on there. And Ryan, tell us, speaking of consoles, Ryan,
Yeah.
Why don't you tell us about what you're going to do in
Yeah.
terms of a console?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Hey, real quick, just want to mention that the two people who we already gave a copy of EA Sports College Football away to in the month of June. So I will have it well and ahead of the game, which comes out in July. In the month of June, I will be emailing you a console gift card. I think one of you said Xbox, one said PlayStation. I can't remember, but I'll be emailing it out. Whatever you said when you originally won, and I'll be emailing that to your email address. So look forward to that in the month of June. But if we do get to 2,000 subscribers before the release of EA Sports College Football, I'm going to give away a PS5 or an Xbox Series X with a copy of the game live on the Garnet and Old Show. So please, come on.
Yeah. I mean, I talked about this on the Renegade Report on Tuesday night, and I said, we're trying to get to 2,000 subscribers on
Absolutely.
YouTube. And Ryan is, I think you're sweating a little bit, Ryan, right?
No,
He's not
here's
sweating.
why. I don't sweat a lot. It's a genetic disorder.
But
I have no idea what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's kind of strange. But Ryan came up with this idea, and we're still pretty far away, man. So
Yeah.
I don't know if you're going to have to part with that cash or not. But those of you, if you want Ryan to have to part with cash, what you need to do right now is go to YouTube and subscribe. And then, if you have kids that are on YouTube and you have their accounts, go subscribe with their account.
Yep.
Right. Make an account for your mom, for your elderly parents, and go subscribe with those accounts.
This sounds a lot like ballot harvesting.
Yeah, I don't, we're trying to get there. And mostly we want to give away a console and a copy of the game. So
absolutely we do. And Vince, it reminds me of the Michael Scott golden ticket idea episode.
Golden ticket. That's correct. Yeah. So we're trying to get to 2,000. That's the next mile marker for us. Also, Ryan, why don't you tell them about this?
Yep. There is a join button if you're watching on YouTube. So please hop on over to YouTube. We have a few different membership levels. All different kinds of stuff. Vince, I'm actually was going to discuss this with you, hoping to do a show, if you're willing, on Monday night of Memorial Day night.
Yeah, rather than Sunday would be better for me. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm thinking that too. So for our members only.
Members
and then
only.
If you would like to watch those live streams private to you and be able to contact Vince and I directly, become a member of the Garnet and Old Show today. We are waiting on you. Now, we do have a packed show tonight, Vince.
We do.
But if you want to talk about the packed show, head over to the Discord, Garnet and Old on Discord, chat us up. Vince, what do we got going on tonight?
So we're going to talk about a number of things. And I think we should start with, though, our normal thing that we start with that everybody always wants to talk about. And we are going to pull in, a friend of the program, Locked and Loaded. And he's got some other stuff to talk about, too, besides the stuff that he normally talks about.
Absolutely. Doug Rohan, welcome to the Garnet and Old Show. Rohan on the record, and we have a lot to catch up on, don't we?
I was so nervous when you all talked about rebranding that my record intro was going to go out the window. So I was so happy to see that it survived the rebranding movement.
It did, and I was going to check in with you to see if you were okay to get a cartoon made for you, but I couldn't get to you in time. So maybe a little later we can get you a cartoon to match the branding.
You got to follow the brand guide. If you don't, then it gets to be messy real fast.
I just didn't want to have to deal with your intellectual property problems, and I want to make sure I had that in writing that we were okay to do that.
Yeah, if you didn't, it would end up being your worst day, Vince, on Doug's best day.
In all seriousness, I don't know where this is going, and I really appreciate you guys because you were one of the early adopters with me. But today, I did get to spend some time with Roddy Jones on ACC, Sirius Radio. Got to talk to John Kurtz, who's got a nationally syndicated show. And then I also was introduced to some new guys, Garrett Ross and Paul Catalina, with their 365 sports show out of Dallas, Texas today. So yeah, I do, I guess, have to start worrying about my intellectual property and who's making my name, image, and likeness into various caricatures around the country.
Can we get you to sign off on us getting your AI? We need.
all I want to make sure is that when you have hit the pinnacle, to the moon, Rohan to the moon, that you remember the little guys. That's all.
Well, here's the miss. They say that it's important to catch the lightning in the bottle. I caught the lightning in the bottle in a practice area that doesn't benefit me in any way. In fact, one of the comments on one of the YouTube videos was accusing me of being a grifter. And I was like, I'd really like to know where the check's going because it's not coming to my office.
Yeah, so, grifting means you're actually getting some money.
Right.
Oh, man, that's too funny. So we finally did, though, Doug. We finally got the amended complaint this week. And so lay the groundwork for us, if you don't mind, and then we'll have some questions. And by the way, if you want to ask some questions specifically of Doug, the easiest way to do it is to super chat it if you can. And that way we'll make sure that question gets asked. Absolutely.
And remember that for the super chats, YouTube takes 30%. So
they do
add a little extra to that. So there was,
so you could Venmo, and they don't take much at all.
So we do have the second amended complaint that was issued this week under instructions from Judge Cooper. And really there were three substantial changes, we'll call them, to the argument. The first of which was the reason for the need for the complaint to be refiled, and that is the jurisdiction issue. Cooper hammered Florida State for having 7 lines and 4 paragraphs alleging the jurisdiction issue and alleging it poorly, admittedly. So Florida State turned that into a 13-page exposition on how the ACC is doing business in Florida for the state, for them to have jurisdiction here. And there were some really interesting details that we hadn't learned about before. The first of which is that apparently Florida State has invested over $100 million in their production studios across 5 different locations on the campus, specifically for the co-branded ACC network with ESPN Studios. So that was interesting. We also have the revelation that studios that were built, they talked about the basketball facility, Joanne Graff Stadium for all of those broadcasts, Mike Martin Field, the beach volleyball. I didn't know that they were talking about the beach volleyball trip. So clearly they have extensive co-branding opportunities with the Florida State Seminoles, and that was the way that they were really trying to attack the jurisdictional issue.
So when they attack the jurisdictional issue, I talked with you a little bit with you about this on Tuesday. Mm-hmm. Just let everybody know what malicious compliance means in your world.
Yeah. So malicious compliance was the way I described this, because basically the lawyers at Florida State were saying, fine, you want us to do this? We're not going to fight with you about why we should or shouldn't do this. We're going to do this to the point where we are beating a dead horse and everyone is begging us to stop. So we've seen this, a couple times come up in our lives. My wife was actually the first one that coined the term for our family, but she was trying to get some registration done, a permit pulled for a fundraiser that she was doing. And despite this being the 16th year of the fundraiser, the new person down at the permit office was doing their best community school impression and wanting to dot every I and cross every T and just make it a pain in the butt for her. So instead of submitting a 4-page application, which is typical, on her third try, Julia submitted about 90 pages to make sure that the message was conveyed that we were not going to apply a 4th time. So it should be expected that this is the end of the discussion.
So a little Paul Blart, just, making sure that making sure that people understand the ability for us to make your life hard. So you're going to do what we need you to do. In Florida State, I don't remember how many pages or how many lines their malicious compliance was, but like, okay, you want us to do this. We're going to do this. We're going to overdo this.
Right.
Yeah. What did you take from anything else in terms of Florida State piggybacking onto any of Clemson's arguments or Clemson's ways of thinking?
So in the complaint, they recalibrated their different counts that they were alleging. And the first count is, to me, always typically the strongest argument. It's not like literature where you build up and build up. You start slow and you build to a crescendo. When it comes to legal brief writing, you want to start with your most impressive argument. So count one was the suggestion that the grant of rights doesn't mean what everybody has thought for the last 10 years that the grant of rights means. And Clemson has it correct. And we are entitled to leave basically at any time we want. And I have to admit, when Clemson first made the argument, or at least I saw the headlines of this, I was skeptical. And again, I admitted from the beginning that my time was already too busy for a second lawsuit to be digging into it with the same fervor. So I never really got around to looking at the Clemson complaint in any fashion. But once this came out and we started digging into it, we take the first argument, which we had already discussed, and that is that the ACC grant of rights signed by its member constituents is specifically giving the ACC the right to negotiate with ESPN. In the first paragraph of the grant of rights, ESPN is mentioned 9 times. They copied this from the Big 12 agreement, where the Big 12 grant of rights mentioned Fox, ESPN, other media partners. So that's where the first problem came for the ACC. The grant of rights only has to do with ESPN. So if ESPN is gone, there is no grant of rights. The second problem and the new issue that they addressed was the ESPN agreement, which we haven't seen, Joe Public hasn't seen, but the attorneys have seen. They have looked at these documents. We don't have them as exhibits yet, but they've looked at them. Their contention is ESPN agreement with the ACC allows ESPN to broadcast those member games and do everything necessary to broadcast member games. The grant of rights says each member has to do anything that the ESPN and ACC agreement requires for them to broadcast members. So the interpretation is if they're not members of the ACC, they're no longer being broadcast by ESPN. And if they're not being broadcast by ESPN, then there's nothing that needs to be done by the ACC in the extent of the grant of rights. Now that leaves one sloppy sentence that will raise concerns, and that is that in the grant of rights, it says that the members irrevocably grant these rights whether or not they remain in the conference for the duration of this agreement. So that caused a lot of people to say, so it is until 2036. It doesn't matter about anything else. The problem is the judges want to interpret the contracts to make sense. And so what makes sense is that if somebody leaves the conference and they want to do a 200-year retrospective of the ACC contest, the ACC still wants to broadcast Bobby Bowden and his wins and Peter Warwick and the championship game. Those are the rights that are irrevocable. Once the broadcast occurs, it is permanently part of the ACC library and cannot be taken away from the ACC.
Fantastic.
Go ahead, Ryan.
I do want to get into a question here. Brett Taylor writes, Doug, what do you think of Drew Weatherford's article on Yahoo Sports today? Would it be a conflict of interest if his private equity firm did business with FSU?
Oh boy, he's rubbing his forehead. This can't be good.
It's less than ideal. And, when you are in the legal arena and when you get a chance to peek behind the curtain, you have to recognize there are very powerful forces moving behind the scenes in an unseen realm that we in general don't get to see. on the one hand, the headline is eyebrow raising and concerning, but don't discount the possibility that this is also part of maybe an effort to smear somebody who is playing a significant role in deciding what is going to be happening with hundreds of millions of dollars. I can see both sides of this equation, and like I said, it's less than ideal, but I'm going to reserve judgment until we get some more facts and information.
Brad also adds, I took it to be that the firm was talking to other schools, not necessarily FSU.
Okay, but he's still on the board of trustees for Florida State.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about it, like Drew Weatherford, strike while the iron's hot.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, this whole thing is a Pandora's box, and he is on the cutting edge of that. And I know that he, for his love for the university, he wants to do right by the school, but ultimately, like, there are all kind of institutions, because of the NCAA case and how schools are going to have to back pay. I mean, there is an opportunity there for him, so he is not going to shy away from that.
Absolutely not. I'm interested, Doug, going forward, has your opinion changed at all in where you thought we potentially could be at this point in the case, or is this right in line with where you thought it would be?
I'm not changing my position yet. I'm growing increasingly concerned at the slow pace, because I suspected when I previously opined, or when I previously suggested that a settlement would take place before the football season started, I expected we would have some of these issues resolved already. So now we've got the North Carolina Supreme Court involved. I have not read through that brief yet, but it's on my desk and it's on my to-do list. So there's a question as to whether or not the North Carolina Supreme Court is going to make a decision in the next 90 days. Because remember, we just submitted our brief. The ACC has the right to submit their brief, and then the Supreme Court sits on it for a significant period of time before issuing a ruling. And they may have a hearing on it. They may just decline to hear the matter altogether, or they could just rule based on briefs. Those are the three possibilities there. In Florida, we have Judge Cooper with a June 18th hearing date. So that's going to be basically what we just did on April 22nd. So that's now June. Push June to August for any decisions to be made where either party can then appeal. So I'm not certain that we're going to get any substantive rulings from anybody this year. And if we don't have any substantive rulings, then we have two competing realities that we have to face. At the ACC media days, at the ACC meeting, the word coming out of the ACC was that we have no interest in settling. I think that's foolish. I think that's probably posturing. I don't think that's true, but you have to take them at their word for now. And if they don't want to settle, then they're not willing to compromise and they're not willing to come down. Florida State, on the other hand, doesn't want this to drag out 2 or 3 years. They've got an idea of being out by 2026, I believe. And the number works as long as it's something less than 300 million. So I don't know what's going to happen. I'm not ready to shift my opinions yet. I'm still leaning towards something after August 15th being announced, but after August 15th just means I don't think anything's going to happen on August 14th or sooner.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now,
so hold on, Ryan. I know that our friend Chris Frazier over at Spiratics has postulated, or he's offered up out there that to be looking for something in terms of the case mid-June. And Chris, if anything else, like Chris, is a good guy, man. He's supported our show a lot, and he knows what he's doing. And he has, unlike this show, he's got contacts, and a lot of them. And so I would be looking for that. And I would not expect necessarily like an earth-shattering thing, but some kind of movement mid-June, according to Chris. Have you heard anything about that?
No, in fact, nobody is telling me anything. Everything I get is from Twitter and public records. I've shaken the hand of all the important players, but none of them have offered me any tidbits or any morsels. If there is something moving that quickly, then it's because they have seen the ESPN agreement and they are convinced that their interpretation is accurate, in which case we can leave at any time. And so I would be buoyed by such a decision.
Yeah.
I would be surprised if it happens. You would see my legitimate shocked face, not my fake shocked face when they released the video of Scheffler being arrested and learning that the officer didn't have his body worn camera on.
Yeah. Now,
have you seen the references to? I know you have, but in the complaint where they are basically alleging that the ACC agrees with us on these particular points, and I want to make sure that our viewers understand, what you think about FSU's proclamation that the ACC is on board with what we're arguing.
If you notice when they made that statement, when Florida State lawyers made that statement, they cited to the oral arguments of the ACC attorneys, not their written briefs. And that's because a lot of times we say stuff in court as we're trying to talk about our positions that are incorrect, that we mess up. We misstate what the point is that we're trying to make. The judges understand that, and that's why the written briefs are always looked at as a more comprehensive evaluation of what the positions of the parties are. Now, that being said, legal writing generally is very boring, and you want to make it interesting for the judge. So it was a good way for them to stick a dig at the ACC at the very beginning, saying, look, they're all over the place with their arguments. They don't even know what they're trying to argue. In fact, twice they've said things that support our case and our position. So that's why it was interesting of them to include that. Makes for a great tweet, not very heavy in terms of carrying the weight for legal argument.
Go ahead, Ryan. I'm sorry, I interrupted you there.
It's all good. I just want to make it.
I know.
I just want to make it clear for the audience of what Doug provides is back reading into documents pertaining to the law, public record, and giving his opinion as a person who works in the law. So there's that side. Then there's the other side that Doug, I wouldn't either get too far into, which is rumor, speculation, potential stuff. And I think this goes into MM Seminole's question. Greg Pflugar, we all know the name, said he received a letter from someone stating FSU is willing to expedite the settlement by paying more. And then, great, thank you for the question. Important here to notice that I'm sure a lot of people are hearing a lot of things from different people, and depending on who your sources are and who you have contact with, there be all kinds of scuttlebutt and talk. But what Doug's gonna tell you here is when they update in the court case filings and anything updated officially, he's going to give his comment. But I'm speaking for you, I know, Doug, but I'm pretty sure that anything else would just be anyone's guess at this point, right? I mean, there's nothing that we can factually say.
Well, what I can do is I can give you the context of what happens in the legal field generally. So to that point in particular, that Florida State is willing to pay more to expedite settlement. Well, more than what? More than what in terms of what was the offer before? Where did we start on a reasonable basis? Look, I've got a workers' comp case right now where our demand is presently at $1.2 million. The case is worth $1.4 million, but my client is motivated to try to get the case done. The offer on the table is $300,000. We're not even close. So if the insurance company suddenly calls me up and says, look, we're ready to expedite this, we're ready to offer more, what are you going to come up to $400,000? Because we're still nowhere near what we're talking about. This is $1 million case. Likewise, on the other side, I could send a demand for $1.3 million on a case that's worth $30,000.
Yeah.
So just the fact that I'm demanding it doesn't mean that it's necessarily reasonable. What's happening here is there is a math equation, and that's both time and money, and they intersect. And by my calculation, it intersects at about $300 million. If FSU settles and gets out for $300 million, then this all is a wash. Yeah. Is it that important to get out of the conference? Is getting out of the conference all that matters?
Yep.
If it is, then $300 million is the number. If getting out and making more money is what matters, then the number needs to be closer to $200 million. And I've said before that I thought 150, 130 to 150, 150 to 180 was kind of my target. If that's where FSU was formally, and now they're saying, okay, we'll go to 200, that's offering more. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what this letter is, but that's how negotiations work.
Yeah, and to go into the former of the figure being 300, or in the realm of FSU's willing to go over and above just to get out of this, that's where my personal prediction of them getting out, this being the final year of the ACC, is based around my idea from the beginning has been that a settlement that is definitely more than FSU would like to pay, but is still less than it could have been, is reached. And that's where my opinion comes from. Whereas I think yourself and Vince are more on the side of this is going to continue longer in litigation and have a different outcome. And I think that's where most people's probably different opinion is people who think it can go fast. The only way it can go fast if there is a quick settlement. And the only way there's a quick settlement is if FSU is willing to probably up the cash out, you know.
I think that. Go ahead.
I think you're right, Ryan. The only way a high dollar figure works is if we're out before August 15th, because we have to make up that money that much sooner. I think the reason why the longer time frame is more palatable is because it does take time to make schedule changes and to address certain things. But my position now is more pro FSU than it was when this all started in December. I thought we were flinging a bunch of poo at the wall, rattling a bunch of cages just so we could reach a settlement. Now that I'm in the process and I've seen the briefs and I've read the law, the merits of the FSU complaint are surprisingly strong. And if they win, if they win on 1 point, they win, they get out. If we don't have to worry about statute of limitations, if we're talking about what does the contract mean, that was the biggest concern I had. Breach of contract is a 5-year statute of limitations. Breach of fiduciary duty is a 10-year statute of limitations. You want the 10-year statute of limitations, but when did the ACC breach its fiduciary duty? And can you prove that it breached its fiduciary duty? Those are big asks. I was concerned when that was the argument. Now that we're just talking about what is, there is no statute of limitations. What is FSU is not subject to the grant of rights if they choose to leave. I'm not so certain I want to pay $300 million.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, for me, the whole thing was more of a convenience factor. So, like you mentioned, scheduling is a difficult deal, right? And logistics are a difficult deal. So if you're telling me that we can make, all of our administration's life easier, the logistics people's life easier, and we'll pay, $100 million less by staying in another season, I think they'd be okay with that, because if you're talking about getting out and playing in a new conference next season, I mean, there's a lot of hurdles to jump there, and there are a lot of backtracking and having to redo things. So for me, it was more of the logistical aspect of why the university would be willing to stick around another year.
Yep, exactly.
Especially for a lower price tag.
Yeah,
especially for a lower, and that's the reason, right? Oh, we got sporadics jumping in here.
I'm 100% not a lawyer, and what Doug does isn't my expertise. On the hand of why I'm telling everyone the mid-June, early July case related something is going to happen and based on the same source. Hey,
okay.
Listen, I think all three of us hope that that's exactly what happens. Like all three of us. Yeah.
Yeah, Chris, I don't know if you were listening. I mentioned you a little bit ago, but I know you
in a positive light. He mentioned you in a positive light.
Absolutely, because you have the contacts, and you had mentioned it to look for something mid to late June, and so that's the reason why I brought that up. So thank you for chiming in with that for sure.
And I do want to mention to all the followers for Spear Addicts out there, help them out. They just posted on X that they have to reschedule the show tonight. That was supposed to start at 8 p.m. tomorrow, but they are going to do a fan question show tomorrow. So look for that on their X profile.
What's next here? Are we done with legal talk? What's the next hurdle, Doug?
I had said that there were 3 points, and so I might as well close the loop on the third point. The last thing that Florida State is really honing in on is this idea of sovereign immunity. So we're still having this fight because Judge Bledsoe, and the reason why the case is going up to North Carolina is because he interpreted an implied waiver of the sovereign immunity statute, of the sovereign immunity protections, and that's why Florida State can be sued in North Carolina. In this latest brief, they really dig in on this idea of the implied waiver being a nullity or invalid because the statute plainly says it can only be based on an express waiver. So North Carolina, we don't care what your case law says. Your case law doesn't trump our statutes. And that's where there really is an issue. I'm still fighting this fight and going back and forth on the issue. But if there's a fight between Florida statutes and North Carolina case law, I do think that opens the door again for a possible petition for cert to the Supreme Court of the United States. Now, keep in mind, they take 150 cases each term out of 7,000 applications. So is college football a big enough issue, an important enough issue, a relatable enough issue to other cases that the Supreme Court even wants to get involved? Probably not. But in terms of the legal basis for requiring or requesting a cert for the Supreme Court, I think there is enough of a controversy there to validate and justify making the request. Again, what that means is that drags out this case exponentially longer.
Yep.
The North Carolina Supreme Court case can help everybody out if North Carolina says, you know what, you're right, this is going to be a Florida case, and they issue an order to Judge Bledsoe saying you need to let Florida handle this.
Very good. Vince, anything else on your end?
No, not from the legal standpoint. So we can jump into, I want to think that what everybody tuned in for tonight is what we're about to talk about. But I don't know if that's the case. But let's talk about it, Doug. Dublin is only 93 days from today. And or at least the game is. I'm going over before that, and I know you are too. But the game is 93 days from today, and you've been setting some breadcrumbs out there in Twitter, in the Twitterverse, in the Xverse, talking about, if you're going over, let's get together. Let's figure out how we can do something coordinated. So talk about that, Doug.
Yeah, we took some time to put together this landing page from our firm, and we'll put the link in the comments and we'll put the link below. And basically, we're just trying to encourage other Florida State fans who have been following along with the travails of our body, of our group of fans since the college football playoff snub, to have a more significant impact on what happens in Ireland. So, I'm a family man. My daughters are going to be there. We're going to be talking about some PG-13 options of how we want to express ourselves in Ireland. So we've got some things we want to do. The reason why I'm doing a registration as opposed to just sharing it is because I don't necessarily want things to go viral. I don't want things to get shared about. I don't want, the wrong people to hear more details about our plans. Of course, those people can register if they want, but at least I've got their personal information and can start sending them all kinds of advertisements for legal services in Atlanta, Georgia. But nevertheless, if you think that you are going to be going to Dublin and you want to be part of a community of Florida State fans, then I welcome you to register at this link. And we're going to set up a couple different things. There's going to be a couple Amazon.com purchases that we're going to recommend. There's going to be some flyers that we're going to encourage people to print out. There's going to be a WhatsApp channel that we hope people will download and follow while we're over there. There might be some impromptu things that are happening, whether it's hanging out at a pub or a sighting of a celebrity that we perhaps may want to bring to everybody's attention. This is a way that we can kind of make sure that everybody that's going to Ireland has a collective place to communicate and discuss topics and ideas, and just a way to have a more significant impact than just a bunch of people over there having their own thoughts and their own approaches.
I appreciate you doing this, Doug. You and I talked several months ago about when you told me you were going over. I said, I'm going over too. And we're like, we need to do something coordinated in some form or fashion. It'll be fun. It'll be family friendly, right? Or at least PG-13, like you said, family friendly. And it will get some coordination behind the emotion that many of us feel about what occurred last December. And so I appreciate you doing this. And as you know, you and I spoke before the show started, Garnet and Old is 100% behind what we're going to do here. And if you need anything from us, you got it.
I love it. I love hearing that.
We posted a link in the chat as well for anyone that wants to chime in and be part of this. So, and what do you think, Doug? Even for people that may not be going, do you want them to register as well?
So look, if you want to know what's going on, sure, you're welcome to. I've purposely tried not to be too aggressive in marketing myself to the fans as I've gone through this process. So I hope everybody can respect and see that, I'm not here about the money. I'm not here about trying to get everybody into my marketing channel. So I didn't want to appear to be aggressive and say everybody that follows me should register. There may be at some point an opportunity or a time that I do want more people to join in with what we do at Rohan Law. One thing we're doing, if you have not already heard, if you're in the Atlanta area or want to come up to the Atlanta area on June 29th at Scofflaw Brewery. I think Vince is trying to get his hall pass from his wife, but we are going to do a meet and greet there. So there are some top opportunities for us to add some FSU fans to our marketing channel and to follow along with what's happening at Rohan Law. But this legitimately is for sharing information about the Ireland trip. So I'm not going to exclude anybody if they want to join along and follow along. Maybe they can, give us grades on what they're seeing when they're back here watching College Game Day. And if they're on WhatsApp also, they can give us some real-time feedback on what is being observed back here. But it's just a fun way for us to kind of get together and to have a community of people that, we're transcending from X and from Garnet and Old to actually boots on the ground in Ireland.
Beautiful.
Absolutely. That's so cool. Well, thank you, Doug, for being on the show tonight. Listen, every single time we get you on the show, it's fun. And I love this idea. I love the fact that we're going to get Noles together to really have a good time in Ireland. But Doug, as always, thank you. And tell us where we can find you and where people out there can follow you.
Rohan Law PC on X is where we're most active, but of course, every social media channel has a Rohan Law presence. So do feel free to follow us and check us out. And of course, we want to be your best friends on your worst day. So if you find yourself in Georgia facing some legal problems, I got a call from a Twitter follower today. And if he's watching right now, I'm about to call you next. So somebody has some trouble in Houston County, and he wants some feedback on what's happening down there. So again, I'm not going to get hired on the case. We won't take it, but somebody just has some questions about the process and what's going on. So we're going to take some more time out of our night tonight to educate them and fill them in. And that's what we want to be. We want to be a resource for you so that if you do find yourself in some trouble in Georgia, that we can come alongside you and help you out.
Appreciate all you do, Doug, as always. Thanks for coming on, and be well. Have a good rest of your night, all right?
Go Noles.
Go Noles. I do want to shout out, now that we are finished with that segment, JD Powerhammer, the latest member of the Garnet and Old channel. And what JD did is hit the join button. If you're watching on YouTube right now, go ahead and hit the join button, pick your membership level. You will get free shows exclusive to you. You will get direct contact with Vince and I, and we will have some exclusive events for members only come the football season. Lots more to come, but thank you, JD, for supporting the Garnet and Old show, because we are a fan-funded show, 100%. We don't have any big corporate sponsors or anything. We're just two good people that want to talk Florida State.
Absolutely. By the way, if you own a business and you'd like to sponsor Garnet and Old, we are not opposed to that. But thank you. Yeah, JD, that's awesome. And the membership stuff is only going to increase, as the season draws closer. So we thank you for that for sure.
Absolutely. One thing I do want to do, we're going to get into softball, baseball in a second, Vince. But really quickly, as all of you have seen, if you watched the beginning of the show with the countdown and the graphics and the animations and the logos, the rebrand at Garnet and Old is complete, and we are going to be utilizing more and more of the assets that we were provided as part of this deal. But I do want to give a shout out to Dagan Moriarty. Dagan is a very talented artist, has worked for companies like Nickelodeon, Universal, Disney, and Sesame Street, and he did our artwork and our entire asset library that we are going to be using probably for the next few years. So if you want to follow Dagan Moriarty, and hey, do me a favor, follow and shout out at Dagan1973 on X tonight, and let him know, hey man, like the graphics, and let him know you appreciate him for bringing our brand into the next iteration of the Garnet and Old show. Dagan is so awesome. He was easy to work with, super friendly, and we appreciate him. So let him know how much you appreciate him as well. Go ahead and just give him a shout out on X if you would.
The original branding is right about here. It made even below the camera. What we have now is above the camera.
Yeah.
And we knew that. We kind of cobbled it together with what limited skills I have and Ryan's ability to critique my limited skills. So now, we're very happy with it. And Ryan, you want to talk about that now, or do you want to save that for the end of the show?
I do want to talk about just one thing. Look at these. I'm just going to show off some of the cool stuff we got. Look at this. We got this background, Vince. All of them animated. And then we got gold versions of our background. So tell us, which one do you like? This is 1. This is 2.
If you're in the comments.
3, and this is 4. Which one do you like better for the show background going forward? We want to know from all you listeners out there as you watch the Garnet and Old show, Vince.
Yeah, so we got the headset background that's in garnet and gold, and we have the spear head background in garnet and gold as well. We would like to know for sure. Ryan and I have our own thoughts on that, but yeah, do you want to dig into branding here, or do you want to dig into a little bit of baseball and stuff? So, as far as the branding is concerned, like Ryan and I were very aware that we were behind the times. And Ryan, through a connection of his, got a hold of Dagan. And this has been a couple months in the making. If you've been watching this show for a while, you know that Ryan mentioned something months ago. And but real quality work takes time. And so we've been working with Dagan for the last few months. And we would get a listing, we would get a list of stuff, we would comment, and we went back and forth on that. If you've ever been through a rebrand, this is kind of the way it works.
Yeah, right? We had 4 revisions.
4 revisions on this, and ultimately, what we came up with is stuff that you can see, right? Like you see the logo up in the top right corner of your screen. That is our primary logo. And I just got to tell you, as a visual person, like I just love the spearhead as part of the mic. Like to me, that kind of sold it with me. And so there's some other things too that you're going to start seeing coming soon. And what I mean by that is we have a whole folder,
a truckload
full of assets that are going to, as you can imagine, result in some merchandise, right? And just suffice it to say, I think maybe Ryan will talk more about specific things on that next week when we have some more time. But think like car magnets or car stickers or things like that. And Dagan provided us with some quality, easy to produce things that look sharp. I mean, look sharp. And they are indicative of of the type of professionalism that Ryan and I
We're trying.
do here. Trying.
Yeah. And guys, this football season, we do anticipate having merch. I'm just going to say that. We don't know what it will look like and what quantity and what way we'll distribute, but we will have merch. We've talked about magnets and hats and shirts. We've talked about these things, and finally, we have the high enough quality images, full resolution that is worth it. Because if we had tried to do real merch the last couple of years with our existing logos, it would have looked like we cropped it, and that's because we did from other images. So now we have real full res 4K images that we can use.
Ryan, both of us should have wore our Garnet and Old shirts that we have, and that would have been a great example of what trying to do merch would have done with the old graphics. So
exactly.
But the headset is the primary. We have some other stuff that we'll be rolling out a little bit here and there as far as the merch is concerned. And if you're willing to do it, great. Our point is not to make a ton of money on that; it's to get it out there for sure.
Yeah.
But let us know in the chat too, by the way, if there's any specific things in terms of merch that you think is more useful. Like we could do a koozie for sure, right? We could do that. We could do car stickers for sure. But what are the things that people are really looking for? They're like, hey, I'm going to pick one of those up off the table. That's what we really want to do.
Vince, I do want to read this one because this has always been something you and I have talked about off the air. Tomcat writes, who's been a longtime watcher of the show, just saying, gentlemen, appreciate your show and that I can actually watch it with the rest of my family and don't have to mute all the bad language and things like that. Listen, that was never intentional. I just think Vince and I, by default, are not very vulgar individuals, and that's not us trying to mute ourselves. In fact, I know for a fact in past shows I have let slip a couple things out of frustration. One snub from the college football playoff episode comes to mind where I threw off my headset and yelled an expletive, but that was not planned. That was just frustration. But yes, we appreciate it, Tom, Kat, that you see that. Hey, listen, we try to make this a family show because we want our families to be able to enjoy and watch it too.
Yeah, if you're going to go back and listen to the live reaction to the snub, make sure there are no young kids around with you at that time, because it is visceral reaction, especially for Ryan. It's actually pretty funny.
Yeah, we were live streaming the show when they announced it that we were snubbed. So
yeah,
Vince was pulled over on the side of the road in a car with his entire family when that happened. Recording.
Yeah, it was not a good time. But we're going to go to Ireland and we're going to let some of that emotion out.
Vince, Garnet and Old visors.
Yeah, and I saw Doyle also said a hat as well. So
yeah.
I think people like hats. I like hats, Ryan, as you know.
You're the hat guy. I am. I wouldn't mind a Bobby Bowden type hat. That would be cool.
That's a good point, and I have a good idea for that.
Absolutely. Now, Vince, do we want to? What is the score? Do you have a score right now for
the last score I saw for the softball game is 1-0. So if anybody has a more recent score than that, please let me know. It's, as far as I know, it was 1-0 Oklahoma. So yeah, still 1-0 as far as I know.
And one thing I also want to tell everyone, just as much as Tomcat, you say you appreciate what we do, we appreciate each and every one of you, because just to be frank, we never, ever, ever thought that we would have anyone actually listening to us regularly.
That's pretty funny.
We started this 4 years ago. Just Vince and I wanted to talk about Florida State just with ourselves and maybe like 10 people that we knew. So it's a sheer happenstance that this has grown to what it has become, and it's important to us. And we talk about it off the air all the time. Like, we can't believe it sometimes that like we even have anyone listen to us, and it's so cool because we try to produce a quality product, and we appreciate that everyone notices.
It's 2-0, bottom of the second. So
we're gonna go watch it here in a second. We do have a phone call
get the
right
bats
after
going.
this, Vince, but we'll hop off and do that here in a second. All right, let's wrap it up, Vince. Do you got anything else you want to talk about real quick?
Well, there were some questions in here. I want to make sure if there's any comments in here we got to, but one of them from Doyle was asking about specifically when you get to baseball talk, was Cam Smith's second team All ACC a snub? I mean, I'm trying to get rid of the garnet and gold glasses on that. But yeah, I kind of think so, man. I kind of think so. I mean, but I could see the other side of it too. So,
Yeah.
but I'll just go with my heart and say, yeah, I kind of feel like Cam Smith was deserving of the first team. What did you just put up there, Ryan?
Hey, so Bo Weevil, he says hello, go Clemson. So
Go Clemson.
Welcome to the Garnet and Old show. So glad that a Clemson fan is hyper fixated on a Florida State show. That's awesome, and we appreciate it. And we appreciate it because with us being so hyper fixated on things like the transfer portal and other things that we're very busy with, and I know you guys are not so focused on the transfer portal, so you have a lot more free time on your hands to come on board. But welcome, we're happy to have you on the Garnet and Old show, Bo Weevil. Thanks for showing up.
So let's talk about what's coming next. So we said that we're going to do a members only show on Monday, and we are also going to be talking about next Thursday. We're going to be talking about some more of the merch that may be coming. So
Vince, I thought it would be fun if on our private show for our members only this Monday, I thought it would be fun if we shared some reject logos that we chose not to go with.
Sure.
That were still cool and we liked it, but a little behind the scenes on other potentials that we said no, and see how many people say you should have gone with that.
Yeah, I would love to do that actually. So if you're interested in that kind of minutia, Ryan and I will go through the asset library that we were given, and maybe we made the wrong decision. I don't think we did, but you'll also get a sneak peek of some of the secondary logo stuff as well.
Absolutely. Well, Vince, this has been a fun show. Doug was awesome. I'm so glad he's also doing that Florida State fan event, whatever that ends up being. It's going to be awesome. I know that because Doug knows how to pull together a crowd, and you're going to be in Ireland, Vince. So I'm excited for you. I'm excited for football to come back. I mean, we're only like a month and a half away from fall practice, kicking off soon. So, man, just keep up, guys, the awesome support of the Garnet and Old show, because we love you guys and we appreciate all the members who have joined us. Please become a member if you aren't already, and at minimum, give us a like and subscribe, because that's free. The memberships aren't, but the like and subscribe are. So, last but not least, Vince, 2K subscribers. I want to give away a PlayStation or an Xbox, so get us to 2K. And last but not least, Vince, Garnet and Old, no inside info, some contacts, some problems. Have a good night, everyone. And
send Chiefs all the damn time, man. They're going to Ireland and they're going to have a good time, and we're going to have a good time with them. Send Chiefs all the damn time. Go Noles.
Send Chiefs all the damn time. Go Noles.